Welcome back to the John and Linetia Show.
Thanks to the guy whose face was eaten off by the Miami zombie for stopping by the studio today.
He ain't got no face.
But he stopped by the studio.
He ain't got no face.
But he stopped by the studio.
Faceless. No face guy.
Weird. That was just a weird story, period.
Speaking of showing face.
Not another Rahm Emanuel story,
well,
is it?
It's not all Rahm, but ultimately there's it's some interesting stuff going on with the whole Chicago public school teachers and the the upcoming or current negotiations. We've basically seen the past year or so. Richard Daley Jr. II here, Rahm Emanuel. Becomes mayor, and he, by his own brute force, pushes through a lot of things. And he, decides unilaterally things like, the students in the Chicago public schools should have the longest school day of any public school system in the United States. And ultimately, without even, extending the teachers' pay, it's funny because you see some people will be like, well, the teachers, so they got a few extra hours. You know what? I'm working 8 hours. If I work 40 hours a week, and someone says we want you now to work, 46 hours a week for the same pay, screw that, But Rahm, tried pushing it through, and ultimately. Was essentially the I guess you could say passive aggressive type threats, and even got some schools to vote on it before the union basically could get to them, and I think in a lot of cases it was these sort of passive Rahm Emanuel type threats. He gets the school the CPS union. President in his office and basically, screams at her and swears at her and all this stuff. That's really not how you handle unions. It's not how you should handle workers, In this case, you've got a big old union membership that could call a strike. And recently, they did a vote, and sure enough, they have more than enough teachers behind the idea that, hey, if it doesn't work out with the negotiations, that we should call a strike.
And a strike is all about money, right?
Well, it's all about their contract. It's as a union, they've got a certain contract, and the contract is coming up. Money is always going to be part of it. It's raises that are built into the contract. You and I know, we've worked for companies before that will tell us, oh, guess what? We had a bad year, no raises. Well, we're not in a union. We don't have negotiated compensation. The only recourse we have is to find another job.
Yes.
Okay. Teachers, on the other hand, just like any other union, they all got together. And if somebody were to say you're getting no raises, hell, they'd walk out.
Right.
And ultimately, you eventually have to pay somebody.
Because wasn't the raises that they were supposed to get, they didn't get? It was on the contract they were supposed to get it, and they didn't get it, correct?
Right. There was some sort of an emergency kind of almost contractual move that the school board was able to use. That ultimately, I think it was first it cut out a raise, but then in the end they gave them a little bit, which you kind of look at it and you go, you know what, the past few years in the economy, you've got layoffs and all this stuff. Absent, we're going to have to lay off teachers to actually say, okay, instead of cutting your pay, we're just going to have no raise this year. I don't think there's anything too wrong with that, and I think. A lot of the teachers would probably agree, hey, you know what, I'm happy to have a job and I'm secure here. As opposed to, you've got other unions that tend to basically go, I don't care if you go bankrupt, you got to give me what's in the damn contract.
I can see both sides of this.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I see both sides. I completely. If something has been negotiated and you don't give it to me, yeah, that's a problem. On the flip side, you can't ask me to work more hours with the same or less pay.
Right.
I don't understand, and I know that the economy hasn't been, doing too well. But these are our teachers. These are formative people that teach our kids. They are there with our children, at least 8 hours out of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Do something for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty sad because ultimately when it comes to having to pay teachers, having to compensate them, they get the short shrift. You just hear about the waste that city, county, state governments, have. The money that they throw away or that they give, fraudulent or valid contracts to friends and family, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes to the teachers and they're, we're poor. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
Bad money management.
Mm-hmm.
You don't all of a sudden say to a service as vital as the teachers, we can't pay you. Because God knows you don't say that to the cops and you don't say that to the fire department either.
Also, many times I've heard teachers say, we're not the parents. And we have these kids who are going to school, not all children, but we have some children who are going to school who are disrespecting the teachers there.
Oh, without a
doubt. They got
doubt.
to put up with that mess too.
That's another thing too. Is in a lot of cases, like the school board and the manual, they want to tie teachers' salaries to achievement by the students. First of all, achievement, is ridiculous because what you're talking about are test scores, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, I never tested well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I didn't get an education, okay? But you put a test in front of me and I may not do well.
But you're not the only one that feels that way. Sometimes tests aren't good for everybody.
And the other thing is that you basically got a lot of, especially with the public school system, you got a lot of parents that are just dumping the kids. And like you said, they're not teaching them proper respect and proper manners.
Yep.
They're not teaching them how to relate to adults and to authority.
Yes.
Okay? And they're expecting essentially these teachers not only to teach them, but to essentially raise them. Okay? And it's so, so much of it are the parents who are at fault with a lot of the problems of the public school system. Not saying that it's,
and it's not all
primary,
parents, and
it's
we're not
all
saying
parents
everybody.
either. But you know what? It's not, sure as heck isn't a majority being the teachers. Because, it doesn't matter. There are a lot of really good teachers out there, and they care. But quite honestly, you can only do so much with what you're given.
I agree. And then what about after-school programs, too? I mean, that's something else that teachers are taking time out to do, which they're probably not getting paid for that either. While some places where you have to take the children just in case, what if you're working or you and your spouse are working and you don't get off of work until 6?
Right.
Kids are out of school 2:30, 3:30. What happens in between now? These are people who should be respected, and these are people who are who have been should have had their just due and more.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Agreed.
Oh well.
We'll be right back after these words from Mike's Auto Repair. Mike's Auto Repair. We gouge you 37% less than our competitors. Guaranteed.
You're listening to the John and Linetia Show.